ReadJunk. ReadJunk Podcast.
ReadJunk Podcast with your host, my guy.
What's up, everyone? It's the ReadJunk Podcast. I'm your host, Bryan, and it's day who the hell knows of the quarantine. I know I've been inside for quite a long time. Haven't been in the store in about 2 months. Haven't really walked anywhere. Haven't driven in 6 months. Things are getting to me so much that I needed to reach out to some people and just talk to other people. So I reached out to my friends Ryan and Eric, and we just talk about movies for this podcast. It's kind of hard to pinpoint the topic or like headline of this podcast. So we'll just say it's 80s and 90s movies we grew up watching that were either underrated, underappreciated, obscure, or just really bad. We're not really going to talk about like the obvious choices of like Back to the Future and Goonies and Terminator, that kind of stuff. It's more of like the ones you should find on cable. Our list is kind of quite long, so perhaps we'll do more of these podcasts if people actually listen to them. We'll see. It was a lot of fun to do. We talk about movies like Krull, Highlander, BMX Bandits, Tremors, Gleaming the Cube, Anaconda, Only the Strong, and so much more. Before the episode starts, if you haven't already, be sure to like the site on social media. I'll have the links in the description so you can check that out there. Be sure to look at my latest designs on TeePublic. They have face masks now, so that's always good. I have a feeling we'll be needing them for a long time, so snag one up. Okay, so let's go. Here's Eric, Ryan, and I talking 80s and 90s movies right here on the ReadJunk Podcast. Let's get going. So pretty much we want to just kind of spitball here of it's kind of hard to narrow down a specific title for this because it's like you can do the movies that we grew up watching, but a lot of it's mainstream, and I don't want to just like talk about Back to the Future and like Goonies and those kind of ones. I want to talk more about like the more obscure or underrated and the really bad that we watched growing up. Stuff that's on cable that we always just end up watching. I'm an 80s kid. I was born in the 70s, but 80s kid. But I don't know. I have a huge list for both 80s and 90s. So I don't know if you guys want to go through the 80s first. All right. So I'm talking with Eric and Ryan. Eric writes for the site here and there, but what else do you do? You're like a freelance journalist, or?
Correct. I'm a freelance journalist and editor. So I do some work for the Washington Post here I live in Northern Virginia. Okay. And I do some writing for LA Times, Napa Valley Register, and a couple of other plaplaces, as well as, of course, ReadJunk.
Yeah, I mean, Washington Post, fuck off. I mean, it's ReadJunk. It's all.
Well, you know.
Yeah, so you got some cred.
Right, WAPO wouldn't publish my Glenn Danzig review, let's put it that way.
Oh, I get the leftovers, and I'm fine with that. Some of the leftovers, you know. And then Ryan, he does 100% Ska Podcast, and he does a lot of DJing at shows that I'm at usually. But what else have you been doing lately, Ryan?
So I've actually been getting into the recording myself doing some. Cocktail mixing and I was like going through like how to cook food on my Ride Midnight Facebook page. It's something I've been thinking about doing for quite some time, and now with the quarantine as well, I'm not doing live DJ shows, and let's just everybody's online. Let me just finally go ahead and start creating this content. So I've done a couple of those videos. And that's been actually a lot of fun. I'm going to try to keep doing that. And of course, continuing forward with the 100% Ska podcast. That's been going great. And, just fingers crossed and waiting for us to finally be able to like watch, live music again. And of course, like watching stuff online and trying to be as supportive of everybody's output as possible. I mean, you've been seeing so much new and creative content that people are trying to do just to stay connected online. And, either it's in their kind of immediate space or they're trying to branch out, kind of like my cocktail drink mixing, but just kind of seeing how people are engaging online has been really fascinating.
Yeah, it's been really well just for the musicians, like bands and musicians and stuff like that. They've been just doing tons of live streams. Like today, there's just always on Saturday nights. There's tons of live streams. It's kind of in a way of who's calling.
No. It was my alarm to tell me, hey, it's almost 9:30, so just get ready.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but it's been really cool to see how bands have been pulling together, doing live shows online, and then Bandcamp yesterday had 100% of the proceeds go to the band, so that was nice. So a lot of, I know like Less Than Jake just did something, and some other ska bands, and just bands in general. Yeah. So it's like, because like iTunes has kind of gone away, so a lot of people have been doing Bandcamp lately. So it's kind of
And I think that it is, so if you missed it May 1st, I do believe that Bandcamp has already promoted the idea that they're actually going to do it June 1st and July 1st as well, where all proceeds will go. I think it's like the first of the month for June and July. Don't 100% quote me on that, because I should have that before I say it out loud, but I'm pretty sure that they are doing that. But if they're now listening to this podcast, now they have to do it, or else they're going to look like idiots.
But yeah, so today's discussion, we wanted to talk about, like the 80s and 90s movies that we grew up watching. Not necessarily good ones, but ones. So, I mean, who wants to start with like a movie that has you watched over and over as a kid?
Sure. Well, I'll go first, Brian, because you mentioned one that I actually revisited a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Krull from 1983, if I'm not mistaken. Ken Marshall. And I don't know if he's ever been in anything else. Like, I can't say that he's ever been else. So for the uninitiated, the basic outline of Krull is an alien monster descends on this planet that's stuck in basically the Middle Ages, right? Or the Renaissance period. And
they're supposed to reunite and marry, and the prince and the king or whatever are supposed to get married, and then so they unite, and then the aliens attack.
Right. So there's two warring kingdoms that are supposed to marry, and the Capulets and the Montagues, basically.
Yeah.
And on top of this lands a giant space monster who needs to run away with the bride for reasons that are never quite established, other than, hey, she's young and hot and Scottish. I'm going to take her away from you. Because I'm an ugly ass monster from another planet
who talks very British.
Yeah, exactly. Fun bit of trivia, Brian. I don't know if you're aware of this, but the actress who portrays Lissa, the princess, apparently had such a heavy Scottish accent that in post-production they looped her dialogue with the American actress Lindsay Krause.
I think I do remember that, because the last time I watched it, I don't know if it was on a commentary or something, that I was reviewing it or just watching it, and I think I did, or maybe I was just looking at IMDb, but I'm like, oh yeah, I remember like her, like it kind of doesn't sound like her, like the voice that would come out of her mouth, but whatever, it worked. But right. It's such a cheesy kind of like movie, and it kind of like, I'm not like the biggest horror fan, but some things kind of creep me out still. Like those, every time you kill one of those aliens, it was like this, like no.
Ow! Oh, yeah, that's the sound it makes, and boy, that hurts.
Yeah, but this movie had Liam Neeson in like one of his first roles. It had
Robbie Coltrane, as well.
The guy from Braveheart. The
guy?
He had the battle axe in Krull, but I'm trying to think of. But he was one of the guys that gets killed by William Wallace with the horse, with the mallet, mace or whatever. Yeah, right. So it's a good cast, and it's a mixture of some Americans and mostly British and Irish, I guess, and Scottish.
But where was the? I want to go back and to 1982 or whenever it was and say, okay, it's 83. We've got something that's like half Excalibur, King Arthur.
It was a Star Wars ripoff too.
Well, of course, because the aliens have ray guns.
Yeah.
Which the protagonists do not have because, again, they're supposed to be stuck in like the 1700s, their equivalent of outer space 1700s. So I don't know if they were trying to make some statement. I'm doubting about technology versus rudimentary weapons that our heroes have and have to overcome the beast. I'm probably giving them way too much credit, but who the F knows?
Ryan, so Ryan, you haven't seen this though, right?
That's right. So I'm a bad 80s kid. I have actually never seen Krull. Now, I do have in my storage unit somewhere, I think I have the Marvel comic adaptation of Krull.
Wow. That's got to be worth something, right? A couple pennies?
No. Pennies, maybe. Maybe I can find someone that's willing to give me a shiny quarter for it if I'm lucky. Like so much of my comic book collection, those are 3 cents each.
I like it.
I just sold a box of comics. I'm like, yeah.
Well, Brian, one thing about Krull, and Ryan, you might know this too, just because you love posters so much. The poster of Krull is super badass because it's got the hero and the heroine in foreground, and Ken Marshall, Colwyn, is holding the thing called the glaive, which is basically a ninja star on steroids, combined with a boomerang that can go, it cuts through walls, but it's shooting out lasers on the poster, and behind them is the beast. Yeah. And you never really see the beast in the movie, because they obviously didn't have too much money to make it look scary. So it's always behind smoke or behind something. But on the poster,
like smudgy. It was like a smudgy effect they were doing too. It was like, if this is one movie to take away to watch, Ryan, I think it's this one. Like, I think for this podcast, I think we each should have a homework assignment of watching whatever movie that we haven't seen. Just one movie.
No, I'm gonna fix this. It's not like I have any reservation or decide like, no, I refuse to watch Krull, or I had I was scared of the trailer. I never watched it. Like I just literally never got to it.
It was always on TV, so it was always something. My parents had cable, so I would always watch whatever was on.
Also, since I know both you guys are music nerds,
yes,
like I am. I
was gonna bring this up. James Horner, right?
I'm gonna connect it back. Yes, exactly, James Horner. But I remember watching it as a kid, going, "This sounds so suspiciously like Star Trek 2," but I know it's not Star Trek 2. But then later on, of course, when you're grown up, you're like, "Oh, he just recycled a lot of the cues that he had for Star Trek 2 because he had 3 weeks to hey, we need 90 minutes worth of music. Okay, I got all this stuff I did for Star Trek 2 that I'm not going to use, so I'm just going to recycle it and redo it for this fantasy, and it'll work, I tell you.
I mean, God bless him, but yeah, unfortunately, the late James Horner, who passed away a couple of years ago in a plane crash. But he was known for doing the same, he had that trumpet flair. He was just known for that, and the same kind of, he would recycle all this kind of same stuff. I mean, John Williams does that too from time to time.
Sure.
But James Horner was known for that, Braveheart, and then there was a golf movie that came out in the early 2000s that it sounded very, very similar to Braveheart. I'm like, is he not even trying at this point?
No. It's all of his stuff was ripped off.
But man, I still miss him. I miss him.
Aliens, Willow, and Star Trek 2. Anything he did after those three, you're like, oh, I can hear the cues from those movies.
Legends of the Fall. I think he did. Did he do Land Before Time? I think he did Land Before Time. I mean, we should just have a whole podcast on film scores. I can do that.
Now I want to know if he did Land Before Time.
But the best part, I think, of Krull that I loved was when they, not to get too spoilery for Ryan or anyone who hasn't seen it, but at some point they need to get to this fortress that constantly changes location, and they finally discover the location of the fortress, and they have to get there before the sun goes down or it changes. So they find these horses that they're like the fire mares or something they're called. So they ride these horses, and it's like just beautiful music, and they're flying in the air. It's like such cheesy effect of these like horses flying. And they like rush up to the mountain fortress thing before the sun goes down. And it's like, it's almost in a way, it's almost like Suicide Squad, because it's like, yeah, don't get used to so many characters.
Well, also you left out the part that to find out where the fortress is going to be, one of the main characters has to go and fight a giant spider to meet up with a gal he was going to marry. It's the
Obi-Wan character.
Really,
the Obi-Wan character, yeah.
Correct. And it just Ryan, you're in for such a treat when you sit down and watch Krull. But that's the kind of, you could not do that movie now. You just could not. You'd get laughed out of the room. Here's
an idea for Ryan for his Facebook channel. Why don't you do a live video of you watching it? So a reaction video of you watching the movie.
I guess if I put a giant disclaimer at the front, like for entertainment purposes only, don't sue my ass into oblivion for streaming a movie.
Right. Well, no, it's not you.
Fair use.
It's not you watching it's just you watching the movie, and you.
Oh, it's just me watching the movie
and doing kind of some commentary. Yeah, I know. Some people, the kids do that.
Yeah, they do. The whole to get off on a tangent and go way out of into like the now 2020s. The kids in their reaction videos, it's just like, okay, I'm going to watch you watching a video or a music video and get your reaction, I guess. Okay.
The postman just came. I'm going to open my mail.
You got to have a lot more personality than U.S. Acres to pull something off like that.
Amazing.
All right. Amazing. So I would say definitely check out Krull. It's one of those good bad movies. It's I don't know if I don't know. It's like, I don't know if it's bad. They rip off a lot of movies.
It just has a lot going on, and it doesn't quite know what it's trying to do. You're right, Brian. It's not bad per se. It's just kind of, it's a pastiche of a bunch of stuff, but doesn't quite know where it's going.
Yeah.
In the end, and it's enjoyable. It's enjoyable.
I have a movie that I was actually looking on YouTube today, because it's actually the full movie is on there, and it's kind of a bad movie, and it's actually, I think, Nicole Kidman's first movie, and it's the BMX Bandits from 1983. Again, another 1983 movie. It's from Australia, obviously, but it's just BMX kind of action comedy kind of adventure thing of these. Nicole Kidman meets up with these two guys, I think PJ and Goose, I think their names. And it's all about BMX. I had a Stu Thompson or a Huffy or something back then. So I was into BMX back then in the early 80s. So I watched this movie a ton of times. I had it on VHS or VCR. I taped it off HBO, I think. But it was Nicole Kidman's one of her first movies. And it's she was, I don't know, 18 or 19 maybe. Just red, fiery, curly hair and riding bikes the entire time, and this is cheesy 80s soundtrack, and the plot of it is pretty much these guys find there was a bank robbery or something, and they use these walkie-talkies, and the BMX kids find the walkie-talkies, and then that somehow links them back to the crime. So then these guys go and chase the kids with the BMX bikes, and they go through a water park, and it's this huge chase scene at the end, and it's then Nicole Kidman's character gets captured, and they go and it's I don't know, it's one of those movies I just always watched. I was watching it today, I'm ooh, this is so bad. But you guys haven't seen it?
So BMX. Okay, so first off, one of my picks was going to be in it, and this could become this podcast could just become a podcast about BMX movies. So my movie was Rad.
Okay.
So I have never actually seen BMX Bandits until maybe 5 years ago, when I was finally you know what? I think it was on Netflix streaming or Amazon for a hot minute. I was all right, you know what? I'm going to finally watch this movie 20 years after I really should have. Okay, yeah, it's great to see like Nicole Kidman in like full Australian accent, and clearly like just watching these kids like ride around on BMX bikes, and it's like, yeah, you could totally see why this movie would resonate with kids, so much. And it was hitting right at that peak where, yeah, the BMX and the biking was
totally, yeah,
hitting its stride. Like the extreme sports were just coming into their, their kind of like proto hipsterness. But I was all about Rad. And I would love to talk about Rad, but I have a couple other movies as well. If we
I never saw Rad. My friend always like, oh, you got to see Rad, and I'm like, I've never seen it. I know.
Okay, so let me sell you on Rad. Rad is a BMX bike movie made by the director and stunt coordinator of a ton of 70s car chase movies, including Smokey and the Bandit and Cannonball Run.
Wow, I love Cannonball Run. I should have put that on the list.
and he made this movie that's basically about this like small town kid who rides his bike, and they come from, I forget why they do this, but like a corporation comes to his small town and they build a giant BMX track, and they're going to have all the international bikers come to ride this track, and they're going to win like $50,000 and like sign up with like Mongoose. If you remember, Mongoose was like the premier name in BMXing. And then the conflict is that on the same day that the race is going to be, would be our hero Crew Jones is supposed to take his SAT tests, and will he give up his dream to be the best BMXer in the world so that he can take his SATs? And it goes from there. But a fun note of this movie is also that it stars a very young pre-Full House Lori Loughlin, who I had an absolute crush on after seeing this movie.
Did she bribe her way into that film? I'm sorry, low hanging fruit. Sorry.
Wasn't she also in Back to the Beach, which is another movie on my list?
Back to the Beach is.
Was she the daughter of Frankie and Annette?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
Huh.
Back to the Beach, also featuring Fishbone singing with Annette Funicello doing Jamaica Ska.
Do you know a Jamaica Ska?
Sure, it was a required course at college.
Jamaica Ska, Ska.
There you go.
I remember it.
Yeah, that was a terrible movie.
And Pee Wee Herman flies away on a surfboard after doing "Bird Is the Word."
But it was so good. And it had Dick Dale and Stevie Ray Vaughan doing a rendition of Pipeline. I think it was Pipeline, which absolutely kills. You've got I think both Gilligan and the Skipper show up. I think in character. You have the Beaver show up like as like a judge of the surf contest. Oh, it's so brilliant! It's amazing. I love it. I love that movie. I'm ashamed I do not have that on my list, my short list.
I wish some of these movies were available on streaming because some of them are not. So I have them I used to have them on VHS but not DVD.
Well, I will say, and I am definitely not shilling though. If they want to, reward me, I won't deny it. So this Blu-ray company, Vinegar Syndrome, is finally releasing Rad on Blu-ray for the first time ever.
Oh.
It was never officially released on DVD. It was like stuck in VHS ownership hell. Who knows? No one knew who owned the movie. But I guess they figured it all out. So they're finally putting it out 4K, completely remastered.
Wow.
So of course, day one, I had to pre-order that because I'm just going to watch that all.
Maybe I'll try to review that then. That's why one of the reasons why I still have a site to review stuff, because I don't feel like paying for it. Eric, you want to go next for a movie?
One I really, really wanted to talk to you guys about, and Ryan and I have been kicking this around for years, is I'm sure we all saw Highlander when we were about that impressionable age of
I saw it a lot later, like in college. But
Okay. I remember very vividly seeing that film as maybe I was 10 or whatever. And I was already, I think that's the first film where I was very cognizant of the narrative use of flashback. Oh, we're going back and then we're doing this and then we're doing this and then we're doing this. And it had guys chopping heads off and there was magic and there was Sean Connery trying to do a Spanish accent and Queen doing the soundtrack.
That's such a good song, though.
Oh yeah, here Kings of the Universe and Who Wants to Live Forever. They're both fun Queen songs. I'm not going to say they're good, but they're fun.
Yeah.
But if you look at that movie as an adult, you're just like, oh man, this movie's bad.
I do own it on Vudu, so I've been meaning to watch it again, and I actually wanted to make a spoof T-shirt of it for Straight Edge, but it's like there can only be one, and it'd be like Straight Edge. But I have to figure out the right design for it because like I'm still straight edge, so I'm like there can only be one. So, yeah, and who did the soundtrack for that? Was it Michael Kamen? I think that.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. Another composer gone. So
Highlander is one that I have not. I mean, I know I've seen it, but not in a billion years. Like probably since I was like a kid. And I vaguely recall seeing Highlander 2: The Quickening.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen any of the sequels. I think I've seen the fourth one because I remember that came out in the late 90s, and I kept seeing the trailer for it. I'm like, I might as well just go. I'm like, it was like not Aaron Paul. What's his name? Something
Aaron
Paul. Not
Adrian Paul.
Adrian Paul. Yeah, I'm like, not the guy from Breaking Bad.
Not the guy from. Oh, that'd be amazing. What up, bitch?
There can only be one, bro.
Yeah, bitch. There's your head rolling down the floor, bitch. So yeah, we can absolutely talk about the sequels, but just in terms of Highlander itself, it's one of these movies that I'm sure sounded great on paper. It's like, oh, you got a Scotsman from the 1600s who lives for 400 years, and then there's this thing where all the other immortals are going to gather together for one final battle to have this power at the end that lets you see into the future. But if it let him see in the future, it'd be like, oh wow, so then there's 4 more movies and a television series. You didn't see that shit coming, did you?
I'm surprised they haven't rebooted it though.
There is plans to.
See,
from what I've heard on the Internet Movie Day, yes, that there is a plan to redo Highlander. But it's like, why? What can you gain on it?
What's that lead actor, Christopher Lambert? Right? Is that his name?
Correct.
Yes.
What has he done besides Highlander?
Before
Mortal Kombat.
Oh, I haven't seen Mortal Kombat.
He was Raiden.
Oh my
Mortal
God,
Kombat.
You're right, Ryan. Forgot about that.
He was also in, what was he? Was Christopher Lambert was in Fortress? Was that?
He was in Fortress.
I
Man,
know my
you guys watch
IMDb.
bad movies, man.
Oh,
Yeah.
we did.
I look at the cover, I'm like, yeah, it was back in the day, it was all about looking at the VHS cover, and it's like, yeah, right. I'm going to pass. I don't know.
So, Brian, I got to tell you this side story about Fortress. I promise I'll look you back to Highlander. So,
sure.
Ryan and I have a friend, a pair of brothers that we grew up with, and I watched Fortress with them. And within the first 30 minutes, there's 2 instances of full-on frontal male nudity for not really any reason. But our friend was, you know, and that was his whole protest. And then having his, you know, I was like, that's your whole thing. There was no argument to it. There was no, man, this is great. It was, you know.
Well, it's rare.
Yeah.
It's like Monty Python movie or something, but.
So Christopher Lambert, before Highlander, was in a Tarzan movie that I've not seen called Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan or something like that, King of the Apes or Prince of the Apes or something of the Apes.
You're going deep cut here.
But when they hired him for Highlander, they didn't realize that the dude spoke absolutely no English at all. Like
you could tell. This is like, oh.
Oh, yeah. So he shows up on the set. He's like, it's nice to meet you. But they're like, okay, can you go over there and do this? Blank face, like, oh fuck, this dude doesn't know any English. What are we gonna? We're just gonna have to feed him his lines phonetically. Again, who the hell knew? Somebody thought it was a good idea. And then Sean Connery. Let's just talk Sean Connery, because it's now been 15, 16 years since The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and he's not been in a movie since. And the dude's 90, so he's probably not going to be in anything else. But all right, so we need somebody with gravitas to be an old Spanish prince. No, Egyptian, right? What the hell was he supposed to be?
I thought he was Scottish because he was. That's how long I've watched it.
But the character's name is Ramirez.
Oh, okay.
Which sounds pretty Spanish, but so he shows up
my name is Ramirez.
Right. He shows up as the Obi-Wan Kenobi character, the mentor character that teaches the Connor McLeod how to use a sword, because apparently he was crap with the sword before. Never mind that he was fighting all the other Highland clans up there. And then he gets, spoiler alert, then Sean Connery gets his head cut off and is gone from the movie. But he's in the film for 15 minutes.
And who was the bad guy? It was Ernest, what's his face? Ernest Brown?
No.
Clancy Brown. Clancy Brown, yes.
The Kurgan.
And that guy's been in so many movies.
He has. He shows up. He was in the Shawshank Redemption of all things, Clancy Brown.
Yeah, it's one of my all-time top 5 favorite movies. That isn't Star Wars or Lord of the Rings.
Okay. As far as the good stuff that Highlander has going on, it looks okay. The soundtrack is good. I like to say nice things about a movie first before I start tearing it apart. So it looks good, but the problem, Russell Mulcahy is just not a good director, and he's not a good. He later wrote, if I'm not mistaken, he wrote Backdraft based on his time as a Chicago firefighter.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't even remember. Yeah, actually, I've never seen Backdraft, believe it or not.
Okay.
I need to add that to my list. Ron Howard did that, right?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, Backdraft is fantastic. It's interesting. You know what? On a side note, I would just be interested to hear your thoughts on Backdraft, because I watched, and now we're getting kind of into the 90s, although I didn't watch Backdraft until I think a couple years after it came out. Watching Backdraft, you can kind of, it's interesting to watch a movie that was made in what was that, 91, 92?
Correct, 91.
Almost 25, 30 years later. And to see the differentiation in characters and how it was acceptable to show characters and character development and how you would develop and show language and converse and just dialogue and everything, and just how that kind of just changes, and there's just so much testosterone in that movie. It's obviously it's firefighters. I know testosterone is bad, but it's just it's so blatant. And I guess obviously 80s
Michael
and 90s.
Bay kind of testosterone.
kind of, yes.
Yeah. That's not a bad analogy.
Yeah, it's definitely the pre-Michael Bay.
Wait, so who was in Backdraft? Was it Billy?
Kurt Russell.
No.
Billy Baldwin.
Billy
Baldwin.
I know you. All right. It wasn't
De Niro, Scott Glenn. Who else was in there? Jennifer Jason Leigh. You got to have a woman. Who else was in there? Oh, Donald Sutherland is a crazy.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of. Donald Sutherland. Yeah,
as a crazy guy, because Donald Sutherland.
All right. Going back to Highlander and the segue from that with Queen. You guys have seen Flash Gordon from 1980, right?
Oh, of course.
Of course.
That was one that I watched a lot. My dad loved that one too. He loved Fultan, dive. So he would always do that.
Flash.
I still listen to that soundtrack. Yeah, I was always scared of that the hand scene though. I was always when that.
Oh God, no! Oh yeah, absolutely.
And
you can't see what's in there, and you don't realize that Flash is playing Timothy Dalton until he puts it. It's like, oh, no, don't put your head in there.
And like those weird swamp creatures.
And Ming was the Swedish actor we just lost.
Yeah.
Help.
Max von
Sydow.
Thank you. Yeah. Who's supposed to be Asian, I guess? Ming.
I never knew that when I was a kid. And I'm like, oh, he's called Ming.
I'm sure both of you guys have seen Ted at some point, right?
Yes.
Ted
with Mark Wahlberg.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I was like, I don't know if it was an 80s movie, Ted.
No, Ted with like the animated talking.
Yeah, right. Seth MacFarlane. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And Sam Jones, who played Flash Gordon, shows up as himself. And it's just so funny. He
followed me on Instagram. One of those but then he quickly deleted it, probably to like get followers. I don't know how he found me though. But I'm like, why is Sam Jones adding me? Like my personal account. I'm like, whatever.
Don't question it.
Another thing that freaked me out about that movie was those robots with the goggles. When you ripped off their goggles, like they just like had like the wiring, and that lady that like when you threw her on the spikes and she like melted.
Oh, that was creepy. Yeah, the spike scene was creepy.
Yeah, there was definitely some creepy stuff in that. It's like I remember watching it a lot, but certainly scenes I was like, we'll fast forward this. All right, who wants to go next? What do you got?
So I want to. Yeah, so we don't have to get too deep into the weeds because these are well-known movies, but I do want to kind of give a shout out to the concept of the heavily edited for TV horror movies. So when I was first starting to get into like horror, like my parents wouldn't rent me horror movies. I just would be at the VHS store, like going through the horror section, like all these movies look fantastic. But eventually you found out, like late night on like WPIX or whatever, you would get to watch like some of like the sequels. So I definitely remember watching, I think the very first Nightmare on Elm Street I watched was actually Nightmare on Elm Street 4, because it was like 89, maybe 90. It was finally getting into TV syndication. It came out in like 88. And so that was like, I think the very first Nightmare film I'd actually seen. I knew the titles, I knew the movies or of them, but never saw them. So getting to watch Nightmare on Elm Street, getting to watch some of like the Friday the 13th movies, all in like heavily edited format. So like obviously you're losing all the good stuff. Like there's no boobs,
right? There's
no like all the kill sequences are like obviously like excised from the film. So it's like you just get all this set up and like no payoff. But it was like my toe dip into horror. And I was like, oh, this is great. I just want to watch more of this stuff now. So really just want to kind of give a shout out to those memories of when you would get to catch these horror movies like on TV, for the first time. And then eventually we got like HBO. I was like, oh, holy crap. Like I missed, like, there was so much I was missing.
That's how I watched a lot of them, I think, was like they were on Channel 11 and I would watch like Friday the 13th and I would get freaked out because like some guy got killed in a bunk bed and I slept on a bunk bed with my twin brother and I was, of course, top bunk. But my older brother, who was 4 years older than us, he showed us in second grade the first Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh,
so
my
that's
God.
kind of what kind of scarred me for life for horror movies, like the stretchy Freddy and the wall kind of thing, and then she was getting all bloody and yeah, so that kind of like. So then, like, even in college, people were still like, my friend Frank was always busting my balls, like, "Oh, Stretchy Freddy's gonna get you," as I'm in a photo lab in the complete darkness.
Oh dear.
But I ended up watching most of the Friday the 13th though. But I never finished Nightmare though.
The same thing happened to my brother Bryan. I saw the first Nightmare on Elm Street when I was in 5th grade, which is still way too young to watch it. But my brother was in 1st grade, and he still remembers just being absolutely scarred by the experience of watching Friday the 13th. Or no, the first Nightmare on Elm Street.
There was another horror movie. I don't know if it was in the 90s. It was that always had like a like molted into my brain was Creepshow. I think Creepshow 2.
Oh yeah.
And they were stuck like on it was in the beach scene.
Oh yeah, with
the what?
Well, with the beach scene with Liam Neeson, where the tide's coming in, and he's got like Ted Danson buried up to his head, buried up to his neck.
No, I think it was
Leslie Nielsen.
I think they were in a lake.
Oh, Leslie Nielsen. Sorry, not.
I think it might be Creepshow 2 because I think it was they were in a lake, and it was like it was like a wave, and they like the one girl thought she got a wave, and the wave came over on her, but everyone kept dying, and it still freaked me out.
Yeah, that was Creepshow 2. It was called that segment was called The Raft. Yeah, that there's a beach is closed and no swimming, so they swim in there, and there's a giant, basically amoeba creature that eats them one by one. And yeah, the one guy gets away, swims to shore, thinks he's made it, and then yes, the blob monster turns itself into a wave and grabs him. And you're like, oh! Yeah,
so bad. But I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I just never found any enjoyment in horror movies and being scared, and like, cause I'm a wimp. I'm like, I have nightmares and I still have bad dreams, and still like think ghosts are gonna get me. And I used to pee with the shower door open. I would open the shower curtain all the time because I thought someone was always gonna be standing there. It's like one of my like pet peeves. I still kind of do it.
Well, I mean, the one time. See, this is the problem. You've done it so much now. The one time you don't do it is the one time the axe murderer is going to be behind the shower curtain, and you're done.
Right. I'll be right back. I got to go bathroom.
Well, he's not necessarily going to murder you. He just wants to watch you take a leak.
Yeah.
Because axe murderers are secretly perverts.
Kinky ghosts.
Ryan's right. The one time you don't look is the time that they're going to be there.
You're give me all that.
Oh, that's right. Excrete that urine. Oh, this is the good stuff I've been waiting for.
Whose turn is it? Is my turn? Eric's turn? I'll go.
Yeah, go for it.
How about Scavenger Hunt? Now, it's 1979, but I still consider it an 80s movie. And it was with...
I don't even know if I know that.
Yeah, I don't either.
It's... what's his face? Willie Ames, the dude that was in Battlestar Galactica, or the first one? No. It had Cleavon Little. It had Scatman Crothers. It had the dude from Empty Nest. What's that? Mull something, Roller something. I forget his name, but it was like a huge. It had like Tony Randall. And it was like the plot is like someone gives all the family members and like people that are associated with this millionaire who dies, which is Vincent Price, and then he does like this. He was always like this person of like I guess he owned games. I think that's what it was. So he makes everyone have to do scavenger stuff all over the town, and people are stealing things, and then people join forces and then whoever gets the most stuff wins all the prizes at the end, or the will, I guess. So it was like a shitload of people in it. Willie Ames from Charles in Charge before he went in Christian movies, and
Buddy Lemon, Buddy. Right. He's Bible man.
Yeah, yeah. But it was one of those movies that my brother and I used to watch all the time. Then it was out of print for years, and I think we spent like $60 on eBay to get a VHS copy, and then I think it was released on Blu-ray for the first time last year, so I ended up getting a copy of that. I'm like, I have it. I'm like, why did I spend $60 on this movie?
But is your life more complete now that you have it, though?
I do, because I'm like, when I'm gonna it still holds up as a fun kind of like whimsy kind of movie, and like rat race kind of that kind of vibe of a movie where everyone's just they're stealing things and shit happens, and yeah. Okay, it's a fun one. I don't know if you might be able to find it on YouTube for free, but definitely not on streaming.
All right. Well, I'm noting it down to myself.
Scavenger Hunt.
It's a good cast, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if I was actually a professional, I would have written down who starred in all these movies and.
it's more fun trying to remember this stuff rather than like, oh well, the computer is literally right here. I can look this up in 30 seconds. But it's more fun. But you know what? It's actually more fun to kind of think about it from this perspective and like, oh yeah, who was in those movies and trying to remember it like you watch them.
Richard Benjamin,
back
Trayvon Little, Tony Randall.
Well, plus then you don't get great mistakes like saying Liam Neeson was in Creepshow.
That's right.
I have a set of skills. Have you guys ever seen Hysterical from 1983 with the Hudson brothers, which was Kate Hudson's one of her father was in it?
No,
it was like it was like a zombie spoof, but that's like another. I have it on DVD, but it hasn't been released on Blu-ray. But it was one of these like it was the Hudson brothers, and they just made fun of like there was like a lighthouse that had like John Larroquette had a cameo in it, and it was like some haunted lighthouse, and then every time the lighthouse pointed at something, the people like the sea captain would come and kill people, and they would all turn to zombies, and they would all have turtlenecks, and all they would say was, "What difference does it make?" And then they had these two guys that was like making fun of like Indiana Jones as like scientists that came to solve this problem. It's one of those that movie that my brothers and I would watch every year because like around Halloween probably time. But it's like if you guys like horror, it's like it makes fun of that and Indiana Jones.
All right. I'm noting that one as well.
Yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard to find though. But
like Liam Neeson, I have a set of skills that allow me to find what I need to watch.
Yeah, you can find it if you look in the right places.
All right.
But the DVD version of this movie, it was never in the TV version, and it was like at some point they're running away from the zombies, and then all of a sudden the zombies start breaking onto this zombie boogie kind of dance. And it's like I can see why they cut it, and I'm like, yeah, I'll get fast forward this part, but the rest of it's funny.
Now, is it supposed to be humorous? Assume / hoping.
It's like slapstick and like
was the dance supposed to be kind of like a ripoff of Thriller?
Yeah, I think probably it's something similar to that. Yeah, but from what I remember, but yeah, it's I think from. Yeah, because Thriller was like 82 or something, right?
83.
Yeah, 82, 83.
Okay. Yeah, so it makes sense. But yeah, that's if you guys like horror, it's very stupid kind of comedy, like Naked Gun, Airplane, like that kind of humor.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Who wants to go next? What do we got?
All right. Are we still in? We're still in the 80s. We're going to go into 90s.
We can go into 90s. Yeah. I mean, we can always do more of these podcasts because they're fun talking about.
All right. Okay. So I'm gonna do a nice little bridge segue coming in in 1990. The Kevin Bacon starring of formerly of Arrow Through the Neck in Friday the 13th. The Kevin Bacon starring Tremors, which is an absolutely amazing monster movie.
I've seen pieces of it. I haven't seen all of it.
I've seen that. Yeah,
it is fantastic. I mean, it's one of those movies, and this is kind of like when I sidebar, a little bit of a sidebar just to talk about like how I watch movies and kind of rate movies is like. Did the movie has a vision? Did the movie set out and accomplish what it wanted to be? And if it wants to be like a really bad horror movie or just like a schlocky exploitation film and it pulls it off, fantastic. Like that's like I give it a thumbs up. If it wants to be like this like heavy-hearted drama and like best picture winner and it falls flat on its face, well then fuck that movie. Even though it's like so I rate down that. So Tremors sets out to be kind of a throwback to like 1950s monster movie kind of like giant like insect kind of style movie, but it's like this giant worm underground in like New Mexico, I think. And it's
Arizona,
it's fan-fucking-tastic. It doesn't take itself seriously. it's got some good moments of scares. It's got a few but gore moments, but it's overall it's humorous. It's a comedy, and amazing practical effects too. I mean, everything is like the creatures are physical, or it's like puppets, or it's like these amazing like forced perspective shots. They do so much great stuff, and Tremors is one of those movies where, like, growing up, we're talking about leading into this podcast, like, what movies did you grow up watching on TV? It's like Tremors was one of those movies that if it was on TV, no matter where it was, you watched the rest of it.
USA Network.
Yeah, exactly. USA Network. Pour one out for USA Network. And like up all night.
Did they go under? USA Network?
I'm sure they're probably, maybe they're still around, but not nearly.
No, they still have.
Not nearly. Not
I don't watch anything on it, but they used to have Burn Notice and Suits and some other movie shows. That's true. I mean, I've had
WWE. Yeah, that was on there a lot.
I've had cable in 10 years, so I don't even know what channels are around anymore.
There's too many. There's too many stations. Still now there's so many platforms to watch stuff on.
You know what's interesting about Tremors, Ryan, is I'm thinking back. I'm pretty sure that's the first movie I ever saw that was both comedy and horror at the same time. But I didn't realize that. So I remember we watched it at a sleepover in February or March of 1991. It was me and Mike McCaffrey and a couple other guys, and we're turning this on, and like, let's get the scary movies out of the way first. So it was. I don't know why I remember this, because I just have to. We started with Tremors, then RoboCop 2, then Total Recall, and then Ernest Goes to Jail. I don't know why those four, but like, okay, let's get the scary ones out of the way first. So we started with Tremors, and we're watching this going, this is kind of funny.
I never realized that. I mean, I always thought it was like a scary kind of movie, so I always kind of avoided it.
No, it's got some good. It's got a few like tense moments, and there's definitely like pseudo like horror elements. But overall, it's like a.
I'm sure I can watch it now.
It's much more a comedy. Yeah, I mean, I think it's like PG-13. Also,
it is PG-13.
Fred Ward, Reba McEntire, Michael Gross from Family Ties. Yeah,
that's right, the one and only.
See now,
who I think Michael Gross is the only recurring character to appear, I think, in every single Tremors movie. Burt Ward made it to, I want to say, part 3 or part 4.
Fred Ward? Dude,
Fred Ward.
Burt Ward was Robin. I would love it if Burt Ward was in the Tremors movies. That'd be incredible.
I'm literally looking at the IMDb listing, and I still said Burt Ward. So.
Holy giant worms under the soil, Batman.
All right, old chum.
Sometimes you just can't get rid of a giant monster.
Yeah, Reba McEntire is great because you just like she's just this total like
badass.
A total badass. Like they're like she and Michael Gross play this like husband wife. They're like end of times doomsday preppers. So they're like they've got this literal wall of guns that they wind up like fighting one of the Tremor monsters with at some point. And it's just amazing.
And they kill it with the elephant gun.
They break out the elephant gun.
I'm not going to watch it now.
No. Watch it anyway.
That's only the first. I think that was only the first one of them. So there's
It's pretty. Ryan, do you remember, was there ever an explanation about why these things were? Was it nuclear testing, or was it solar flares, or was it Mike Pence? What caused these things? Running around
giant phallic creatures underground. Yes, probably Mike Pence.
Probably Mike Pence.
And now I'm going to get yelled at for that.
That's
so. No, I don't think. I mean, maybe in one of the later movies they talk about it, but definitely in the first movie, that was the whole point of it. Was like, oh, it's kind of like they're just guessing. Right. You know, it's like the Thing. Like, what's like? Why does the Thing like? I don't know. It's from outer space or whatever. Like, there's no rhyme or. The Thing? Oh,
because it's different than us, okay?
Yeah. I usually tend to the comedies and action adventures and, that kind of stuff. but occasionally, like, I'd be like curious and like watch a movie was, deemed scary in my eyes. Like even like ones that were like super bad that are like one of the worst movies of all time was like Troll and Troll 2. Like that Troll 2 scared me. Like even like the part when they're like eating the green goo and like the bad acting and everything, but it's still like it still gave me nightmares.
I mean, that's Troll 2. I mean, that's also like a great movie you would always catch on cable like somewhere like Saturday afternoon on like channel 57 or something, like in the UHF channels. And
Spatula City.
But
Spatula City.
Also a great 80s flick there.
Oh yeah.
On my list,
Troll. But I could definitely tell. I could say like Troll 2. I mean, like you don't really know what to make of this movie. And there's when they're dealing with like all the green goo and they're like turning people into plants or whatever. It's like you're like, I don't know how to take this. So yeah, I could definitely see one you thinking that it's like horror, becoming like unsettled by like those images.
Right.
Yeah. Let's move on from Troll. I don't feel like having to think about that. Eric, do you have any movies from the 90s, from the early 90s?
I had one and I'm blanking on it at the moment. It would help me if I kept notes in front of me. So I'm going to briefly jump back to the 80s again because I know at least one of you guys has seen Life Force.
Life Force.
Which was a Toby Hooper who did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and it was his follow-up to Poltergeist. So space vampires. Astronauts discover space vampires. One of whom, there's two guys and one of them's a chick. And it's basically, I forget the gal's name, but she's a European actress. And they're like, all right, let's just have her walk around naked for half the movie. And that's literally all she does. She walks around naked and sucks the life force out of astronauts.
Looking it up
why
now.
Is she naked?
naked space chicks.
Life Force.
Done. And
I mean done.
Ugh. I'm looking at the cover on IMDb. Matilda May?
Probably, sure.
I don't know who that is.
Exactly. Nobody knows who it is. It was yeah.
She was in The Jackal and...
Sure, why not?
I guess. I've never heard of I've never heard of this movie. I've seen the cover looks familiar though.
Well, I think it is on, or it used to be on Amazon Prime. So if you want to send anybody an affiliate link to Amazon Prime, get yourself some money.
Yeah, I do have an affiliation with Amazon.
And then there's a giant battle on Earth at the end of it, but just the thing that sticks out is like, why is this chick walking around naked for half the movie?
Well, it's a canon movie. What else do you want?
Well, it's the same thing.
It's canon?
What do you mean canon?
Yes.
What do you mean?
Canon films. Canon, not canon like in story. Canon films.
Yeah, I know, Mike. Nikon.
It was shot with a Nikon. Yeah, it was great.
But I'm like, so she's walking around naked the entire time, so it's kind of like Species in a way.
No.
Yeah.
Except way more gratuitous nudity than Species.
Oh, okay.
Way more. Yeah.
All right.
Because Species, I mean, I have a soft spot for Species. I saw that in the theater when I was 16, and I knew it was bad even then, but I'm like, oh, okay. Gratuitous nudity. Yeah, she's naked in a couple scenes, but literally Life Force, this woman walks around completely naked for almost half the movie. And you're like, why are they doing this? What's happening right now?
Let's talk about a movie from 1989, Gleaming the Cube, with Christian Slater. Have you guys seen that?
I have not.
Yes. Is that the rollerblading?
No,
movie?
it's skateboarding. Skateboarding, yeah.
Skateboarding, that's right. Again,
Tony Hawk was in it.
80s extreme sports movies, of which I have another one on my list. So this has become like the extreme sports movies.
I have one from the 90s on my list. We could talk about that one next. segue. But yeah, Gleaming the Cube that's one of those movies that isn't on streaming, sadly, because I would like to watch. I think it might be on YouTube, but like just people randomly put movies up there. But yeah, it's a good movie. Good. I mean, it's good in the sense that it's entertaining and
right.
You know, it's got Christian Slater in it, I guess, with the skateboard, and with the dude from what the hell's his name, from Goonies and
Corey Feldman.
No, he played the Fratelli guy. No, that's not the guy.
Robert Davi.
No, it's not the guy I'm thinking of. He was in Running Scared with Billy Crystal and what's the tap dancing guy. But he played another cop. But yeah, he was him and Christian Slater. And I got the IMDb. I should just fucking look it up.
Well, there was some database on the internet of movies.
On the interwebs. But
internet,
but the skateboarder like culture were like, what the fuck is Gleaming the Cube, and why is it called this? Stephen Bauer, that's his name.
What is a cube and why are we gleaming?
Stephen Bauer was in it. He's in Breaking Bad, right?
Oh wow,
Better Call Saul. Yeah, you played I think a cop, right?
What is Gleaming the Cube? You can't leave us hanging. What is Gleaming the Cube?
It's something like he was a skateboarder punk kind of kid, and I think his like adopted brother was like involved with like a gang or something, and then he got killed, and then he was investigating, and the cop was there, and then Christian Slater and all of his skateboarder friends go and find out who it is, and then I guess he becomes friends with like his brother's girlfriend, and I don't know. I forget the plot of it, but it was a movie I used to watch a lot. Wow. But I had like Tony Hawk in it though. I guess Tony Hawk was like that in Police Academy 4. He was.
Wait, Tony Hawk was in Police Academy 4?
He was in. There was a quick scene where he's David Spade and the other guy from Fast Times were skateboarding in the beginning of Citizens on Patrol, and they're all skateboarding. And Tony Hawk and Steve Cab were there, I think, skateboarding.
Wow.
And then Michael Winslow was singing, I think, Citizens on Patrol. Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. Citizens on Patrol. Boom,
and I think Dougie Fresh was doing the show. I think that song was playing during the beginning of Police Academy 4. Police Academy, I mean, all those movies I watched. I never watched the Moscow one, though.
I think I bailed out after the Miami Beach movie.
The Miami Beach one is a lot of fun, you guys.
I love that one. The fart in the elevator.
Oh, yeah.
Even the sixth one I like. I like the sixth one.
I do too. I mean, he writes dork on Captain
Harris,
Harris's chest, and he's walking around. But clearly, they were going for a PG rating, so they couldn't put another naughtier word on his chest. So he's just walking. Hey, what's up, dork? Hey, it's dork. Hey, dork. Sorry, Captain Dork.
Wayne Gretzky's wife was in that one.
Wayne Gretzky's wife.
Yeah, Janet Gretzky. I forgot her last name or maiden name. Janet Jones? No. Janet. Yeah, I don't know. Janet something. Janet Gretzky. Yeah, but yeah, she was in that one and number 5.
How do you guys feel about? Let's jumping back to the 90s now. How do you guys feel about Judgment Night?
I love Judgment Night.
Great soundtrack.
Yeah.
I have it on my shelf. I haven't watched it in a couple years. I remember loving it when it first came out. But I'd be really curious if I looked at it now. I'm like, Dennis Leary, is he really a good bad guy? Probably not, because he's doing Dennis Leary shit.
I mean, he's definitely playing Dennis Leary in that. I mean, there's no character beyond that. I mean, he's like playing the same Dennis Leary character you would see in like in Demolition Man. He's just like a little more meaner, in this one. But I don't know, it's like, ooh, it's like Scary City. I think they're in like Chicago. So it's like, Chicago was still like at that point, like this ultra, like, ooh, like go to Chicago and die kind of like city.
Well, it's so much better now.
and Jeremy Piven, that's like the same character.
Right.
Sometimes he lives,
Right.
sometimes he doesn't. This one he didn't.
Yeah, sure. It's a lot of it's definitely a product of its time. And the soundtrack, soundtrack I think is obviously the legacy of the movies.
Helmet,
is the
House
soundtrack.
of Pain, Biohazard, Onyx, and I'm trying to think of some other ones.
Yeah. Well, it was all mashups too. Like that was the whole shtick of it. It was like, oh, we're gonna match up these like metal band, like metal bands and alternative bands.
Wait, was this the start of new
rappers.
metal?
I don't know. I don't think we can put that blame on this. I don't. Although probably Fred Durst was listening. It's like, oh, this is actually a pretty good idea. I bet I could do this better.
It's like putting peanut butter and jelly together.
Yeah.
What was the plot of it though? Were they going to somewhere going to a concert or something?
They were going to a boxing match, and they were in this giant RV, and they were in a really bad traffic backup. And like, oh, we're gonna miss the fight. And so they pull off like, oh, I know how to. Someone's like, oh, I know a shortcut. And they're going to go through the projects of
East St. Louis, Hunky Lips.
Excuse me, can one of you gentlemen tell me to get back on the expressway?
Go fuck your mama.
Basically, Judgment Night is that scene in Vacation, but done as an action movie.
The extreme dark version of it, yeah. Like everyone, people
exactly.
get killed and.
Right.
And that's it. And then hijinks ensue.
Exactly.
I was checking this one movie out today, skimming through it, and it's from 1991, and it's really, really, really bad. Rock and Roll High School Forever with Corey Feldman.
Oh yes, that was also a really bad good movie.
Yeah,
it kind of like this, like a pseudo kind of. I don't know if it was just a straight up remake or a sequel. Was it a sequel to the original Rock and Roll High School?
Yeah, which I've never
designed
seen.
As such.
Yeah, which I've never seen, but I saw this one a million times.
Oh,
yeah,
how are you a punk rocker and not seeing Rock and Roll High School?
I don't know. It's like some movies. It's just like it looks bad. I'm like, I don't want to see Joey Ramone act.
It is bad, and they can't act.
Yeah,
but it's you've got PJ Souls. Running around and looking adorable and being all like 70s punk rock and whatnot, and great soundtrack. I mean, you have the Ramones, and it's like it's kind of like this the equivalent of like a movie version of like School's Out Forever, which I think is actually on the soundtrack as well. But that's the original Rock and Roll High School, which I think was 79. I want to say. Is just a fun cash in on the Ramones, and then Rock and Roll High School Forever is just like, it's been 12 years. Let's make a sequel to this movie with Corey Feldman.
And I was looking it up today, and I was like blown away because one of the characters is this Asian guy, and he's in one of the band The Eradicators, and he's Stephen Howe, and I didn't know that he was the guy that was always on Conan doing these stunt bits, and he became he's a famous stunt coordinator and like actor, but he was in that movie as one of the that's how he got his first SAG, I guess, card, by being in this movie. So I was like, I didn't know that until today, and I was like, wow, I used to love all his bits when he was on Conan all the time. When he would train Conan doing all these like kung fu bits, but he played the bass in that, and then I don't even know who else was in that, but it was the guy Rusty in European Vacation. He was in that as well.
Oh wow,
Mojo Nixon.
Mojo Nixon, is that a real person's name?
Yeah, Mojo is like high school is a prison. That was the name of the song.
Character's name or the actor?
No, that's a singer. He's
a singer.
Mojo Nixon?
Yeah. He had a combo album with Jello Biafra of Dead Kennedys.
Yeah.
That was like a country.
If your store don't got Mojo Nixon, then your store could use a fixin'.
I can't argue with that logic.
But you can watch this movie on YouTube if you really want to. I don't know if you should, but But the most famous line from the movie is Stephen Howe's character How I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but they're trying to like fake a drug test and they bring in apple juice, and then all the guard because there's like extreme like people come into the school like dictator type people, so they're like making everyone do drug tests. So they're like they go up to the urinals, all the guys in the they're friends, and they're like they pretend they're gonna pee and they pour the apple juice in, and then they go and they're like and they start drinking it. They're like this is not my pee. And then all the security guards are like, ew. Like if there's any scene to watch in that movie, that's the one to watch.
That's the one to see it. Okay.
Yeah. Who wants to go next? We'll do a couple more, and I think we'll bail, and then we can always continue this another time because there's so many movies to talk about.
All right, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna see if my early '90s extreme sports movie is the same as Bryan's. Airborne.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I was into rollerblading and hockey, and so I love that movie. And that kid that was that actor. He starred in a failed TV show called Swan's Crossing that filmed.
Oh wow, I remember Swan's Crossing.
Yeah, and it used to be like at 5 a.m. on like WPIX, and he actually was from Middletown, New York, which I lived. And I think he went to Monroe Woodbury High School. I think. I don't know, maybe Monroe but no, they filmed at Monroe Woodbury Commons in Harriman, New York. Because I remember seeing reports of Swan's Crossing. But he was the actor that was the main guy with Seth Green, and then Jack Black that's like one of his first movies.
Wow, that's right. Yeah, Jack Black is in that. Almost unrecognizable to as at that point. Like I think I totally forgot that he was in that. But yeah, Seth Green is in that. Is also one of his earlier, though not earliest roles, because he was like a true child actor. And obviously he's like a teenager in this one too. But for those of you that have not seen Airborne, basically the idea is it's like total fish out of water. It's like our main protagonist is like this Southern California, like a surfer dude, and he has to go live with his aunt and uncle in Cleveland. I think.
It's Cleveland.
In
it's a horror movie.
Yeah. In the middle of winter, so he's like, "Oh man, I can't surf anymore. What am I gonna do?"
But he brings a surfboard to the airport, like.
But he brings a surfboard anyway, because you have to know you need like the idea. Like, oh yeah, he's a surfer. So he brings a surfboard to Cleveland with him because it's an extension of himself. But then he's also as luck would have it, a really good rollerblader, and all the kids in high school rollerblade, and so he gets in trouble with like the main like the alpha males of the high school, and there's like this big old rivalry thing going on, and then like the girlfriend of his rival like starts to like fall in love with him, and it just goes from there.
I'm trying to remember because I haven't seen it in a while. I do own it on Vudu. But isn't it like he tried ice skating and he couldn't, and he failed miserably at it.
Yes, that's right. And then he plays hockey.
Because surfing and rollerblading just go hand in hand, I guess.
Of course. Wow.
Yeah.
This is Airborne?
Airborne.
From 1993.
93. Yes.
Okay. I'll give you guys as my final pick of the evening. It's a little bit later in the 90s, but I always remember because I had such a great time watching it in the theater. And it's not a good movie by any stretch, but Anaconda, the first Anaconda.
With J-Lo?
That came out. Yeah. With
and
J-Lo
Ice Cube.
and Ice Cube. Was it T or Cube? No, it was Cube. You're right.
And Jack.
Owen Wilson is in there.
Jon Voight, right?
Jon Voight,
right?
Jon Voight, who in a career of being weird and creepy, this is absolutely the apex, the apogee of his weirdiness.
Well, so don't you think his current self is the weirdest right now of being?
It's kind of 50-50, I guess. except when in real life he doesn't really try to do a strange accent as far as I know. I met him once at the Kentucky Derby of all places, and he wasn't doing a weird accent that I remember. But oh man, yeah, Anaconda. You got. I was a freshman in college when that movie came out, and
I don't really.
It's like, you know what?
remember.
I'm just gonna walk across the street and go watch this thing. And it's one of those movies where I'm sure you guys have all had this experience. Back, you see, kids, back in the day before this virus, we used to go to the movie theater and see things together with other people and pay money to do this. But if either of you guys have ever had that experience where suddenly the entire audience just gets it and locks in together.
Yeah.
So that was Anaconda for me. It was just, because we're laughing at it, ha ha ha. But then, have both of you guys seen Anaconda?
Yeah.
I've seen not from start to finish, but definitely seen scenes. I think probably the end I've seen.
So
I think I've watched that start to finish in the past 2 years.
Oh wow, okay.
I think I've revisited that. I think I revisited that one.
So when the Anaconda vomits John Voight back up, he lands at J-Lo's feet and he winks at her, just the whole place just went completely bonkers and was clapping it. I remember there was a kid near me who's probably 6, 7, 8 years old. I was like, what is happening?
Is this movie the blame for Sharknado and all these giant fish movies and things?
I don't know if you can logistically draw that line to Sharknado, but the thing with Sharknado is that they don't take themselves serious. I think Anaconda was genuinely at least trying to be like,
but he blinked. But if he,
I think that's
go ahead.
I think that was the point of Anaconda. Is like they were legitimately trying to make a scary adventure movie with this giant snake, but it's in that weird late 90s period where all the CGI just looks absolutely ridiculous and just takes you completely out of being as this is a movie. It just takes you completely out of the scene. But they're trying to be. I think they were legitimately trying to make us a horror movie, like a nature attacks horror movie. Whereas Sharknado is just which I just despise because it's obvious. It's just so. Well, it's attempting to. It's so cynical, and it's so we're objectively trying to make a bad movie. We know we're trying to. That's the point of Anaconda, or any movie that just completely fails. We're trying to make a scary movie, and it just absolutely. And no one in the production, no one in editing, no one in the test screening, no one realizes. No. This is not scary. This is absolutely ridiculous, it's only after it gets to live, the wide release screening that everybody's just oh my god,
shit, we got a dog on our hands.
This is bad.
So you guys, a couple of years ago, I met Judd Nelson at an event in DC.
Wow,
and he's in this terrible film from about '95 called Blindfold Acts of Obsession. It's him and Shannon Doherty. And she gets naked. Don't watch it. It's not even good for her. But I brought it up with him just because I'm like, dude, I bet nobody has ever asked you about this movie before. I'm asking about this movie because it's just a turd. No two ways about it. But he said something to me that has stuck with me. He said, nobody sets out to make a bad movie. So he's like, when I signed up for this thing, I thought, there's some potential here.
Yeah.
So it's nobody's going to put all this time and money and effort into making a turd.
Yeah. I know.
Sometimes it happens. And this could, Sharknado and the, what is that? What is that production house called that makes all those damn things?
Oh, it's the Asylum.
The Asylum. Thank you.
Oh.
Obviously they're setting out to make bad movies.
Yeah, those Myers movies. They're Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. Those
Russ Myers.
Yeah.
But I don't think Anaconda was. I agree with Ryan. I don't think Anaconda was setting out to be bad. It just the end result was bad.
Yeah. But I'm like, if you go back to his comment though, I'm like, there's people just going out of their way to make bad movies. If you go on Tuesdays when I do my DVD listings on the site, I go through and I see all the like Russian ripoffs of like Jurassic Park, and it's like like all these things that have the same font as like Guardians of the Galaxy, and like they're just purposely trying to fool people into buying these movies, and it's like a scam, and I don't know how they get away with it, honestly.
No idea. That's a great question.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, this is Triassic World. It's completely different.
There is something probably like that. Yeah.
It's Late Cretaceous amusement park. It's fun. It's totally not the same. It's totally not the same.
Snikes. All right. Well, Eric, you pick a movie and then I'll do one and then we'll call it a night.
I think I just went with Anaconda.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I was actually looking this up today. I was watching the trailer for it, and I was showing my wife. She's like, yeah, this is a really 90s movie. Only the Strong from 1993.
Don't know that one.
It stars the dude that was in John Wick 3, and he was in The Iron Chef, I think. Brotherhood of the Wolf, which is actually a really good movie.
Oh, that's a fun movie.
Yeah, that's Mark Dacascos.
Yes. But it's like, yeah, it goes. It's like takes place in Miami, and all these like troubled kid, teen kind of things, and they picked like 15 out of the group, and he has like a capoeira kind of program, and it gets them to be good kids, and then there's the one kid that has an uncle who's the drug dealer of the Miami, and then he goes and fights him because he's an ex-Marine. It's like kind of like one of those. It's like one of those cheesy like Chuck Norris kind of style kind of movies. But that's one I used to watch, and so much so I used to watch it so much I bought the soundtrack because it was, you probably know the song is like "Banana Way, Banana," and it has like "Zoom, Zoom, Zoom." That's all like the car commercial. Like that song is from that movie.
Oh wow, I remember Zoom Zoom. Yeah, right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So that's from that movie. It's that soundtrack.
Wow. Zoom Zoom.
The more you know.
Look, I've got some embarrassing soundtracks in my collection. The first 3 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies, I have all 3 of those in my tape collection.
Too legit.
All 3 of them.
Too legit
to quit. No. It was
Adam's Family. Wait, is that Adam's Family?
Yeah, it was Adam's.
Oh.
No, that was just MC Hammer.
Oh, right.
On the same album as the Adams Group.
I did have that soundtrack, and that was MC Hammer had "This Is What We Do." Do. Yeah, that was the first Turtles movie. Yeah.
My body, it's my body. Take it where I want to. Pop it at a party. I know it way too well. It's kind of embarrassing.
That's the only song that's the only one I can think of off of memory. I can't think of anything else. I mean, obviously the second one's got Vanilla Ice.
Of course.
Ninja Rap. And all of a sudden, like, he just comes out of the thin air. He's like just rapping about this.
Of course. That's how good he was,
yeah.
Bryan. It just giant turtle ninjas invade his concert. He's like, oh wait, I got this. Yo, it's the Green Machine gonna rock the town without being seen. He could have been an 8 Mile. Come on now.
Oh God, that would have been a funny like SNL sketch. If they, were funny. But.
Well, now we all need to just go watch Cool as Ice.
I've been wanting to. I can't find it.
Oh. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that.
I don't know if I've actually seen it. I mean, you just know of it. It's believe it or not, it's so hard trying to watch movies during this pandemic because of my son. I mean, because it's like he wants to watch Star Wars every day, which is great, but he wants to watch it every day. It's like, okay, you need to space out the movies. Right. But I've been trying not to watch as many movies. I actually showed him Goonies the other day because they had Josh Gad did the Goonies reunion.
Oh, that was amazing.
Yeah. So I'm like, I immediately watched it after, and I'm like, and then halfway through, my wife's like, I don't think I've seen this movie. I'm like, what? I'm like, you said that towards the end because I was gonna make you sit down and watch this. But yeah, I mean, obviously, The Goonies is one of the movies I've watched probably the most. Course. Back to the Future. I think he's doing Back to the Future next. Cast Josh Gad.
Oh, I'm in for that.
Yeah, and they're doing over in Manchester right now. They're doing a Back to the Future musical that they're doing in Manchester, and then they're going to do in Soho, and it's actually like Alan Silvestri and Robert Zemeckis, I guess, gave a thumbs up to it. But I don't know if I'm not really.
Leave it alone.
I know.
Leave it alone, please. Don't do that.
It's like everything's turned into musicals. I'm like, yeah.
Well, also, if you're gonna do a musical about it, do a bad movie that nobody liked.
What was like? Oh, was it Army of Darkness? Or Evil Dead. They did a musical for that.
Evil Dead. There was an Evil Dead musical which I have seen, or I've seen a production of it. It's fun. It's like, you know what? It's like going to a Gwar concert because they deliberately like spray you with like fake blood, and they like tell you like, oh, if you're gonna sit in like the first two like rows, which I did, you know, you're in the splash zone. So like bring, you know,
Gallagher.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Like bring an umbrella, bring like, you know, a poncho or something to watch it. I thought it was fun. My recollection was there was a lot of unnecessary like gay jokes and like not good, so like kind of like mean spirited. It was outdated, even though it was like 3 years ago. Like, right. I was just like, I just remember like there being like a lot of jokes that just did not hit, and it was just like just really low hanging fruit, and just like, nah. Yeah. No, I could not really honestly recommend seeing it, but yes, it exists.
Yeah. All right. Let's leave on a more uplifting note. Let's pick one more movie.
Think of a good one.
I don't know.
All right. I'll let me throw this one out there.
Okay.
It is The Animal House of Our Generation, PCU.
Oh, I love it.
Not seen it.
No?
What?
No.
Jeremy Piven, Alex Desert from Hepcat.
Yes, I would have Hepcat's in that. David Spade.
John Favreau.
Yeah, that's one that got past me.
Jake Busey.
Yeah. It is.
David Spade.
I think there's like one or some kid. I don't think there's any kids in the hall, but I think there's like a few people from like a few other like sketch comedies that are in it, like briefly. And I'm trying to think of who else is in that. But it's like, I mean, it's such a dissection of like early 90s. I mean, like it's the double entendre of the name. It's like the PCU is like, I think it's like Port Chester University, but then it's obviously like PC, like, you know, politically correct university because
it's a movie before the time.
Right.
Everybody on campus is like aligned with like, you know, a rights activist of like one thing or the other. And you've got like the dingy like grunge house versus like the preppies.
It sounds pretty legit. I might have to check this out.
It's definitely a product of its time. I can't remember the last time I've seen it. I do recall it, like
it's not available on streaming.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a product of the 90s.
Yeah, because like Jeremy Piven's character, like in a way, it's like, yeah, sure, they're making fun of the PC people, but in a way, it's like it's almost like Republican talking points a little bit. But it's like it's still funny, because like David Spade's character is like this little snippy little like Republican kind of like snooty kid, and the lady that was in Arrested Development, plays the what's the person that's head of the college? The dean, I guess. Yeah, the dean. Yeah. So she's in that, and she's trying to get. Go ahead.
You have the amazing performance with George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic at the end.
Yeah.
It's a product of its time, and I think it's, you know, if you were to watch it now and not having seen it, I guess if you grew up in the, like, you know, you were a teenager in the 90s, right? You'd probably like, oh yeah, like this seems familiar. Like I don't know how well it would hit.
Yeah, it's a good soundtrack. You got like Elvis Costello and George Clinton.
Oh yeah, you got Elvis Costello. You've got
Mudhoney.
It's Mudhoney covering Elvis Costello. They're doing a version of Pump It Up.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
I thought there was both, but okay.
I'm making notes on that as well as some gems I wanted to save for next time.
Yeah, we should have a homework assignment. Which one should I watch? I don't know which one. I'll have to go back and listen.
I'm gonna watch Krull. That's it. That's an easy one.
Yeah, that's all over the place. You can watch that one.
Assignment.
If I can find PCU, I'm gonna check that out.
Maybe I'll watch Tremors at some point because it seems like it's kind of not too. Because you guys like all these scary movies.
It's not, Brian. It's not super scary.
It's not super
funny.
scary.
Okay,
it's scary in the same way that Total Recall is scary. Let's put it that way.
Get these people air.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's some gross stuff that happens, but it's I mean, God, Total Recall. When I saw that the first, I know we're going to legitimate movies now, but when the weird shit started happening to him, like after he came back from Recall, I'm like, oh wow, this is freaking me out now.
Yeah, it took me a while to watch that one because I was a huge Arnold fan. I mean, still am, but that one it took me a while to watch because it just like the one scene with his eyeballs going in and out. I'm like, that's kind of weird. I don't know. Just there's certain movies that I just like never watched like immediately. I had like someone tell me word of mouth. Like I watched Commando like a gajillion times. And like that, and like with the scene where he gets all the guns, I'm like, oh yeah! I'm like, get that shit away from me. I don't want to see that. Yeah, but well, I'm sure we can talk for hours and hours about movies, and I would love to do this again because this is a lot of fun. Just for this topic alone, just obscure, underrated 80s and 90s, and we can even branch out to the zeros, the 2000s.
I got a couple for you guys.
I've barely scratched my notes list here. So if you get enough listeners to this episode and your subscribers, you have a net positive subscriber versus like loss of subscriber. Let's do this again.
No one's listening right now because no one's driving. So it's like you'll get to it eventually.
And I've been told that people listen to podcasts even when not driving. So
I do from time to time. Yeah, I mean, I'll listen to the podcast over again, mainly when I'm editing. But yeah, this is a lot of fun, guys. Certainly needed it. This week was rough, so I definitely needed to see some other people besides my family.
Well, that's what technology is for, especially in these weird times.
Yeah, I'm going to record an episode for a podcast. It's a win-win. But you guys have a great night. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, you do the same.
Where can everyone find you though? I mean, do you guys have Instagram or social or anything like that? Like, do you guys care?
Yeah,
I know Ryan does, but I don't know if Eric.
Yeah, no, I'm on Twitter at SingerWriterEFA. My handle. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, all that junk.
Okay.
And all my writings are at my Muckrake page. So if you look up my Muckrake, Eric Althoff, Althoff. That's yeah. But I post all that stuff usually on my Twitter account.
Okay, cool.
And yeah, you can find me at DJRyanMidnight.com. You can also find me on Facebook as DJ Ryan Midnight as well. So you get all my weekly-ish podcast episodes and the other random musings I need to get out there.
Rock and roll.
And we can see you in very colorful suits at Ska shows when that happens.
And how. Oh my God.
Yeah. My suit collection needs some love. So hopefully this whole pandemic thing is over with.
I'm like,
soon
who's this guy always in the front row of my photographs singing along to ska bands?
Not only that, Brian, but when I did my bachelor party back in February and Ryan he pulled out all the stops, people were like, dude, you brought it, man.
Where do you find them?
I have no idea where he finds them.
Here and there. I have my sources.
Okay. All right, guys. It was a lot of fun. Thanks for doing this. Talk to you soon.
All right. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.